A question that students ask me all the time is how to choose guitar strings. Now, guitar strings there are basically two main categories, of course. First, we have steel string guitars that use steel strings, and then, of course, we have nylon string guitars, like a classical guitar that you would use nylon. So the first choice you make in strings is you have to get the kind of string that your guitar is designed for. You cannot put nylon strings on a steel string guitar. Well, you can, but it'll sound terrible. And if you put steel strings on a nylon string guitar, it's worse than sounding terrible. It will probably break your guitar. So nylon and steel, you have to know the difference between those. Now, once you've made that determination, again, by what kind of guitar you have, and of course there are all kinds of other guitars. You could have an 8-string pedal steel guitar. You could have a 12-string guitar where you would have a pack of course, 12 strings. So you have to get the kind of strings that work best for your guitar. I have a Hawaiian lap steel guitar. I have to buy a custom set of strings for that because of how I want to tune it. So the tuning of your guitar also can determine what kind of strings you want to get. But that's getting a little further away from the important thing is, let's start with something easier. Do you want to have light gauge strings or medium gauge strings? That's a more important question in the steel string and even in the nylon string world. So the big difference there is a light gauge set has the high E string with a diameter of 12 thousandths of an inch, ranging from 12 to 53 or 54. That would be 0.012 to 0.053. And that would be a typical light gauge set. A typical medium gauge set would go from 0.013, 13 thousandths, to 0.056, 56 thousandths of an inch. And that determination is also kind of made more by your guitar and your style of playing. So the gauge of the strings, if you want to play bluegrass or heavy finger picking, it really depends on how your guitar is set up, but most people want light gauge strings. But if you're playing bluegrass and using a flat pick to hit it very hard, if you play like Doc Watson or Ricky Skaggs or any of those people, you need medium strings on a big old dreadnought guitar, like a Martin D28 would be the perfect guitar for that. But otherwise, light gauge strings, 0.012 to 0.053 or 4 is really best. As far as brands go, there's one other big decision to make between steel strings. You can get different alloys of strings. I tend to like phosphor bronze strings. Excuse me. Phosphor bronze strings as opposed to strings that are brassier, but it depends on the ratio of metals put into the string. So the set I really prefer is the Diodario phosphor bronze, either J16, which would be the light gauge set, or J17, which would be the medium gauge set. And then in the nylon string world, I tend to like it's 45s, J45, which is a nylon set that Diodario makes. Now, other companies make great strings. Martin strings, Gibson strings, and of course Elixir has strings that are coated. We'll save that for a little discussion about some of the other types of strings too. But the first choice to make when you're trying to decide on strings is nylon or steel, and the second one then is the gauge.